is it? One, two, testing, 1, 2. Boy, oh boy.
Pharaoh. Shine at the TV, Black News 102. Whose words will survive when we purge the lies? That curse the divine, cast the pearls to swine. Reverse the design, even merge divide. Side at a TV when two worlds collide. Might hurt to decide just who verbs will vibe. When we curve all the jive, whether girls or guys. No herbs left alive in this earthly skies. Side at a TV when two worlds collide. Clash of the Titans, facts will enlighten. Some spitting mad, but they ain't half as exciting. This platform we battle for the souls of man. Those kidnapped and trapped upon stolen land. Doesn't matter where you at on this earth. Africa's the true origin of your birth. Teaching you true health and wealth. Knowledge of self-worth instead of killing your health, going to jail over turf. We all truth seekers asking questions. Should we seek them in the shrine lodge or the lessons? Is the answer ancestral science or religion? Is it freedom or Willie Lynch a little different? Is it Indian, Aboriginal, indigenous people? Should we worship money? Is it still a root of all evil? We all born with mental shackles if we black. And the only thing that's gonna free us is the actual facts. Whose words will survive when we purge the lies? That curse the divine, cast the pearls to swine. Reverse the design, even merge divide. Side at a TV when two worlds collide. Might hurt to decide just who verbs will vibe. When we curve all the jive, whether girls or guys. No herbs left alive in this earthly skies. Side at a TV when two worlds collide. Is it the gods and earths or the Moors? Should we master UCC and commercial law? Is it being Muslim, Christians, or the Jews? Should we push the old school and need something new? Is it atheism, Egyptologists, Hebrew Israelites, flat earthers, herbalists? To get our people right, I'm in Rod Squad, RBG, or New Covenant. Should we work for it? Should we overthrow the government? Should we all go for self, being savages and vultures? Pan-African or is hip-hop our culture? Is it nationality or correct status? Should we integrate Me Too or Black Lives Matter? Should we hit the streets with the Panthers? Unify the gangs? Is all-out war the right answer? Are we Asiatic or Arabian? Should we just free Dr. York be Nawapi and a Sabian? Whose words will survive when we purge the lies? That curse the divine, cast the pearls to swine. Reverse the design, even merge divide. Side at a TV when two worlds collide. Might hurt to decide just who verbs will vibe. When we curve all the jive, whether girls or guys. No herbs left alive in this earthly skies. Side at a TV when two worlds collide.
All right, peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another Sonetta TV House of Consciousness production. You already know what it is. You see the title. You see what's going on. Michael Edwards been making power moves lately, you know. And Michael Edwards been making his rounds, going around challenging everybody in the conscious community. One thing I tell you about my brother, he's not afraid. He's coming in. He don't care. He'll put up his title against anybody. You know, shout out to my beloved Michael Edwards. Peace and Black Power to you, brother. What's happening? Mike, you there? Michael. Come on, Mike, you there? Mike, you there? All right, let me hang up on him. He'll call back. Let's get this right, man. Come on, man. This is what you want. Let's get it. You want it? You got it. Be careful what you ask for, man. Let's see what's up, man. Come on. Let's get this going. I ain't got all day.
Yes, my brother.
All right, we are live. I want you to know that. And we just beginning this show right here. I'm trying to get Michael on the phone. so I can break down these rules real quick because I ain't trying to do all this crazy stuff, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, let's get this in right. Hold on. All right, peace and black power to you, brother. What's up, man?
Hello?
Peace and black power, brother. What's happening?
Oh, peace and black power. We on already?
We live right now. We are live. I got my brother Garfield on the line. First of all, I want to say this to both of you brothers. We want to try. We want to do not try. We want to keep it respectful. We dealing with information. That's all it is. Nothing personal. All right. When I'm asking you to respect the moderator. When the moderator said time, chill, you got to be chill. You can't, oh no, you can't do none of that. You got to be quiet. You got to hold your tongue, swallow it. And I'm talking to both of y'all brothers, so we don't be arguing over each other. Check?
Check.
Okay. Another thing, I'm going to give both of y'all a minute to open up to let the people know what we are talking about. I know y'all probably see the title. I got Garfield versus Michael Edwards, When Two Worlds Collide. Was Abraham a real person, myth or reality? That's what we're dealing with. Let's stick with the subject, and that's what we're going to deal with. Which one of you brothers would like to go first? If you have a problem, I'll get one of my moderators in there to flip the coin.
Nah, go ahead, Mike. You called me out. So
Michael challenged you. So Mike challenged you. Definitely. Okay, so Mike is the challenger. Brother Mike, you got a minute to explain what you're challenging them on. And of course, you get a grace period of a minute. When you go over your time, I give you an extra minute to let you shut it down. Okay, so my brother, are you ready to let the people know what's going on? You ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. It's on you, Mike. You got a minute.
Oh, all right. Well, the challenge is the fact that this brother has constantly asked for information over the years about Abraham, about the whole premise of the Israelite culture or the ancient Hebrews. And so the challenge to Garfield is to debunk a specific set of information and factoids that I have in the way of archaeology. Okay, this all started on Facebook, and I presented to him a specific set of facts concerning a grave site. And today I want to expose Garfield's rebuttal, because this debate actually has already happened on Facebook. What we're going to deal with today is the actual underlying facts that I have and that he doesn't have. And we're going to, again, put the clean glass next to the dirty glass. And we're going to make Garfield lie about 6 to 7 times today. And I want for you all to notice that I'm giving you the model and the map to debunk Garfield's scholarship every time.
All right.
It's always, okay, go ahead.
All right, brother Garfield, I'm resetting the time. You got a minute to explain why you're here, what you're going to be challenging. You're taking on the challenge of Michael Edwards. It's on you, brother. Time starts.
All right. Hey, first and foremost, I want to say peace and love to everybody that's watching. And thank you, Sonnet, again for having me on your channel, brother. It's an honor to be on a legendary channel. Peace and love to my brother, Michael Edwards. We love each other outside of all of this. All right, me and Michael. That's for everybody to know. All right. Basically, what Mike is going to present to us today is that there's a grave site called the Caves of the Patriots, or Micha'EL, which, according to the biblical text, says that Abraham was buried there. What I'm going to do, family, when I respond to Michael, is I'm going to use what's called primarily the historical method. I'm going to use source criticism. I'm going to use procedures. I'm going to use core principles, eyewitness evidence. I'm going to basically teach a class today. I'm not even concerned with what Michael is going to say, to be honest, because I don't think people are going to, if you believe Abraham exists, you're going to believe it. I'm not going to change your mind. All right. Peace and love, family. And go ahead, Sonnet. Do your thing.
All right. So my brother Michael Edwards, do y'all agree with 8 minutes apiece, right? Or 7? That might be too long. The 8 minutes might be too long.
7 minutes. I wanted to do 5, but 7 minutes is good. 7 minutes is good.
All right, we're gonna have 3 rounds of 7 minutes. Both of y'all going back and forth. Then we're gonna allow you to interact with each other, to ask each other a couple of questions, and then we will begin to open up the phone lines for questions and answers. So y'all will have time to rebuttal each other. We don't want to make this go too long. We want to have a nice, sound, and profound discussion.
How many rounds again?
Y'all gonna get 3 rounds. 3 rounds.
3 rounds.
Yes.
8 minutes apiece. Cool.
7 minutes apiece. 7 minutes apiece. And let me get the time right. Let me start this time. 7 minutes apiece with y'all brothers. Where we at? Where I'm at. Oh, here I go. Okay, Mike, you ready? Are you ready? The time, yes, you first. The time will begin when you start. Don't worry about me starting it. I'm gonna start the time like when you get about a minute in. So go ahead. I'm letting y'all flow. Go. Okay. You got it.
Okay. Now, let's make it plain. Garfield does not have a belief system in which he is using to attack any premise of any debater. Okay. Everybody, when you hear a brother say in a debate that his whole point is not to even receive or to deal with or to listen to the opposing team's information, that's called an early loss, almost a forfeit. He's stuck in a bubble, and I'm going to expose that bubble today. The bubble that he's stuck in is minimalist scholarship. I'm going to say it, minimalist scholarship. That's based on 2 minimalist scholars. And this is what his rebuttal was on the Facebook. William Devers and one Israel Finkelstein. William Dever and Israel Finkelstein. He asserts that these 2 pseudo-scholars, non-archaeologists, but really philosophers, he asserts that these 2 men agree concerning the cave of the patriarchs or the tomb of Micha'EL. But I want to suggest to you that William Dever and Mr. Finkelstein have had several head-buttings, even several debates. So these 2 people don't agree, but we will agree that both of these 2 are pseudo-scholars. I'm going to invite you to just really quickly interview from the tablet. This is a man by the name of, I think it's David Schmaltz. This is an interview he had with Mr. Finkelstein. And these are some of the things he says about Mr. Finkelstein. He says, Norman Finkelstein has been American Jewish community's problem child, denounced as a heretic. Hold on, let me go back. Let me go back one side here. Okay. Denounced as a heretic. Okay, stop my thing here. Give me 1 second. I'm going on, trying to get my slides together. Okay. Denounced as a heretic and a marginal ideologue, a self-hating Jew, selfless and vain, highly emotional, sometimes hysterical in tone, relentlessly logical in his arguments. He is now an academic with a doctorate from Princeton, whose attacks on the Holocaust industry and public misleading or public cheerleader for Hezbollah have rendered him, it says, toxic in his own community. Now let's stop there. This is actually who this brother's going to bring to you. A person that's Jewish, but doesn't believe in the Holocaust. This is a person that's name is Israel. This is a Jew, but doesn't believe in the historical documents concerning what qualifies him as a Jew. Now, this man versus William Devers, both of them, minimalist scholars who only have work concerning biblical archaeology. I want to show you guys something very, very, very disingenuous about Garfield, Finkelstein, and Mr. Deaver. These men are going to pass off for you, and we're going to get into it and read how they pass off. But pass off prospecting as archaeology. I'm going to say that again for those that may not understand. Prospecting, passing that off as archaeology. Archaeology and prospecting, ladies and gentlemen, should have something to do with a level of excavation of archaeological sites. But Mr. Devers and Mr. Finkelstein seem to both agree that archaeology and prospecting can be done with 1800s, ladies and gentlemen, the year 1800s technology that is underdeveloped from Nikola Tesla. This is called a high frequency machine. It's basically an RF machine, family. Some low radio wave piece of equipment that is not analogous to archaeology, but is analogous to skincare, wrinkle removing, analogous to gold finding gold, a prospector searching, finding gold, analogous to simple things that produce grainy pictures like, an ultra scan. Now, let me ask you, ladies and gentlemen, when we get to that particular point in the debate, I want you to ask yourself, why are we talking about these men are leading archaeologists when archaeologists use excavation on archaeological sites, not high-frequency impulse machines? Again, I just gave you the main reasons people use high-frequency machines, which is to remove wrinkles and to find gold. And some even use a different format of it to give you ultrasound for your babies. But we're not talking about mommy. We're not talking about mommy's tummy. We're not talking about grandma's face. You understand? We're not talking about trying to find coins. We're talking about hard archaeology and archaeological sites. Now, being that I said that about the pseudo ray, because that's exactly what a high frequency impulse machine of any kind is, a pseudo ray. I want you to know that Garfield actually posted this to his Facebook, this as a rebuttal. I want everybody listening to go and Google high frequency impulse archaeology. The only thing you will find is Mr. Devers'
10 minutes
archaeology. How many minutes?
10.
10 minutes?
10 seconds, I mean. Now it's 5 seconds.
Okay. I was about to go crazy. Okay. The only thing you will find is this failed archaeology that I'm going to tear apart today. And common uses for a high frequency machine that has nothing to do with archaeology. 1800s technology, family, is what Garfield and his minimalists are going to base their argument on today. And I think 6 times today, and we're going to make him lie.
Time, brother. All right. Brother Garfield, the time will start. This is your first round when you begin.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to this. All right. Peace and love to the family, man. This is Brother Garfield. Listen, man, what Mike just did a while ago, and Mike, please mute your mic, because I did mute my mic when so that you don't interrupt by accident. All right. What he just did is unbelievable. Sarnetta took his time out to set up Garfield versus Michael Edwards when two worlds collide. Was Abraham a real person, myth or reality? Now, ladies and gentlemen, the first mistake he made, he said Norman Finkelstein instead of Israel Finkelstein. He actually mixed up both of them. And for those who don't know, William Devers is a believer in the biblical text. He is a believer. He's not a minimalist. Israel Finkelstein is not a minimalist. He is more of a centrist conservative, actually. Minimalist is T.L. Thompson, who I'm actually going to use tonight. All right, he's a minimalist. John Van Cedars is not a minimalist. He's more of a centrist conservative. So you already lost the first round just by putting out misinformation about the wrong information about two people. But we're talking about Abraham, myth or reality. Let me get to the point real quickly here. Whenever you're looking at if someone exists, family, you got to apply a methodology to it. And that's what the Dagger Squad, NDK, Master Warrior Clan, Amin Ra Squad, this is what we preach all the time. The first thing we got to look at is source criticism. When was the source written? When was the source to anything? When was it written or unwritten? When was it produced? Where was it produced? The localization. By whom was it produced? Who's the author? From what pre-existing material was it produced? So the first conversation we need to have technically is what was said in the biblical text. And let's go to that immediately. The first thing I want to point out is Genesis, let me look at this. Genesis 49, 29, 31 says, then Jacob commanded them and said to them, I am to be gathered. I'm hearing somebody's background. I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is the field at Machpelah to the east of Mamre. In Joshua 24 in Genesis 33, 18, it says, teaches that Jacob bought land from the sons of Hamor in Shechem. Shechem, by the way, is northern Israel, and Hebron is southern Israel. So Joshua 24, 32 tells us that Joseph was buried at this site in Shechem, which Jacob had bought from the sons of Hamor. Now in Genesis 50, it teaches that Jacob was buried in the cave of Machpelah before Mamre, which Abraham had bought. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my brother Michael Edwards is a believer in the New Testament. The New Testament teaches, the book of Acts 7 verses 16 states that Jacob died and was carried back to Shechem and laid in the tomb that Abraham had bought for some of silver from the sons of Hamor and in Shechem. So you might say to yourself, what are you guys debating? We're debating that the cave of the patriots, that's symbolically in Hebron today, is a real place where Abraham is buried. But in your own biblical text that he believes in, it contradicts it. In the Old Testament, it contradicts it. And in the New Testament, it contradicts it. So now when we look at source criticism, we say to ourselves, the procedures for contradictory sources. So we do what's called a textual analysis. So do we believe the New Testament and the Old Testament, or we just believe the part that says that, you know what, he was buried here? Let's follow through with that. Let's bury it here. All right. So that conversation is definitely a contradiction that scholars been debating for years. Now, as far as moving forward, I want to present to the audience something. There's a lot of things I would love to share, but I can't share it right now anyway. But we got to look at certain things of when this text was actually the oldest text we have. We have in the Herod period is the oldest text we have for Genesis 23 that says Abraham was buried in Hebron. That's the oldest text we have, right? Now, evaluating Abraham as a character, you got to go to authors like, you got to evaluate the person who is writing. You got to evaluate the source. So I'm going to evaluate the source today, and this is what I'm going to tell you. In Genesis 14, according to Van Cedars, right, there's a devastating analysis of Genesis 14. You got to vet the source that you're getting from. If Genesis 14 and the source where you're getting the information from is not reliable or doesn't line up with history or archaeology, it is not reliable. But if it lined up, we could use it. If we found Abraham and somebody coming down and some sons, and we found some stuff that matches Abraham, we could say, hey, you know what? The Bible's reliable, man. Y'all beat us up. But listen to this, family. Devastating was Cedar's analysis of Genesis 14, where he pointed out that the political situation described in Genesis 14 and Near East dominated by a coalition led by Elam and included Hatti, Assyria, and Babylonia is not confirmed. Here, listen to this, family, is not confirmed by any monuments, kings list, or other historical and archaeological sources. Van Cedars also pointed out that the 10 kings mentioned in Genesis 14 cannot be found in any ancient documents outside the Bible. So now the issue now is that if Abraham exists, the issue is if the story that he's involved in is true or not. So if the story is not true, ladies and gentlemen, you got to throw out the character also. You got to throw out the character. It's called methodology, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not debating about Finkelstein and all that stuff. I'm here to provide a methodology. Now, there are core principles for determining reliability. Do you have an eyewitness to Abraham that wrote anything? No, you don't. You have a Bible that's written. Genesis is written after the exile. You're talking 5th century BC, family. 5th century BC. But I want everybody to stop for a minute. We're not going to say nobody copy anybody's story. We're going to get that out of the conscious community. Ain't nobody copying. This is a new talk that's going to be my book. Stories have no borders, family. Remember that. Stories have no borders.
20 seconds.
Egypt went into Canaan. You're going to find stories of Egypt in Canaan, and you're going to find some stories of Canaan sometimes in Egypt or in Nubia, where the Canaanites went. So this is the first round. I'm just going to take it easy. But the point of the matter is, I just want to look at the sources of the information that the brother is presenting. Peace and love. It's Brother God.
All right. Family, this is only the first round. We're going to go into the second round, and this is what we're going to begin to do on this debate here. We're going to start it on this debate here. I like the way the Battle Rap League be judging it. So I'm going to leave it up to the people to judge the debates from now on. You know, because it's 3 rounds. You could say Garfield 30'd him 3-0 or Michael Edwards, the RBG Hebrew 2-1. Stuff like that. Y'all know how to judge it. 2-1 or Garfield 3-1, 3-0, or you know how to do it. So we're going to let y'all be the judge, because what I'm finding out, and I'm not saying Michael Edwards does this, but I'm saying with all the Hebrew community, every Hebrew that have debates with us, notice they always say they won and they never lost. Every Hebrew say, yeah, we won. Or I beat this person. I beat that person. So we're going to let the people judge. And there's Hebrews in here too. So y'all could go ahead and judge, and y'all got it from now on. I'm going to fall back. Y'all do what y'all do. Michael Edwards, it's on you, my brother. Round 2 will start when you begin talking. Mike, you there? Come on, brother Mike. Come on, brother. Unmute yourself.
I was on mute, brother.
There you go.
Down.
All right.
Okay.
You good. You good. All right. It's on you, my brother.
Okay. And while the people are making their votes and formulating the 2 versus 0 and all of those games, the win versus loss, I want to make sure that you know also that when the moderator has to jump in the debate to assert any points, negative or positive, that's a loss for the debater. Okay. Now let's move into it.
Oh, Mike, let me correct you. Mike, you don't make the rules, brother.
Man,
Hold on. No, brother. I broke it down earlier. All I'm saying to you, my brother, is you or Garfield.
I respect that.
You or Garfield don't make the rules, brother. You or Garfield don't make the rules. You or Garfield don't make the rules. I already made the rules. So go ahead, brother. It's on you. You good. You're doing good right now. It's on you.
Okay, so I get my 8 minutes back?
No, I ain't even start yet.
My 7 minutes?
Yes, I ain't even start yet, brother. Go ahead. It's on you, brother.
All right. Thank you. All right. Now, Garfield, again, he wants to drag your attention away from what he has already stated. I told you in the beginning of this, I'm going to make him lie several times. I just caught one. His answer is on Facebook. I just told you that's where all of this started from. His primary research, his prime answer and rebuttal is on Facebook. That's what we're going to deal with. He don't want to use Finkelstein because he knows I'm going to rip that argument apart. He doesn't want to focus on Divas because he knows I'm going to rip that apart. So again, you made a catastrophic mistake by just telling them that you don't even respect your own writing. You don't even respect your own thoughts from day to day. That's what I said. A brother that has no system to believe in has really no morality as relates to genuineness in scholarship. It's very untrustworthy. But we will appease you, in a sense, before we go into destruction of your first rebuttal, which is your primary basis. Don't try to throw it away. Okay? You and Mr. Finkelstein and Mr. Devers have made a catastrophic mistake, and it's on Facebook for the world to see. Now, you asked for some proof outside of the Bible. Well, I want to say to you that during our question and answer period, we can definitely go back and forth about the Bible. But for argument's sake, you don't believe it. You just said that. So what will you believe? Let's go to what you will believe. Let's go to history, archaeology, and real facts. Okay? What is real facts? That the builder of this place in question, the temple over the top of the actual archaeological site, was built by one Herod. Herod is documented also in the same Bible book that you don't want to believe in. This temple built over this grave site was built by the same Herod and the same government structure that built the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, that not only the whole world has plunged itself into war about, but it has been fought over, and well preserved in world history. But because you don't know about the cave of Machpelah, nor the temple that Herod built over it to guard it, doesn't mean that its content doesn't exist. Its actuality is not there. Let's learn a little bit about this place. This place is actually a mosque and a synagogue, just like the Temple Mount. Half owned by one particular group, half owned by another. But in Jerusalem, the Christians have a claim to a portion of what is Herod's construction. The Jewish people were not always allowed to worship at the cave of Machpelah, or this temple that Herod built over the tomb. In 1994, there was an Israeli settler that murdered 29 Palestinians at that site. Now, the purchase of this particular field from the Hittites in the Bible that this brother don't believe is again documented in the Bible. Genesis 23:15, Genesis 15:8, and all talked about Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Leah, Jacob, all buried in this place. What place? Not that church, not the mosque, but buried underground in a cave. This is the supposition that Garfield made on Facebook. He said the temple, the building complex, is not as old as it should be. I told Garfield, that's pseudo. You put up a whole post about the top, Herod's building. But Herod's building don't contain the remains. The remains are 5 stories under. That's your supposition. Now let's talk again. This second temple period, where King Herod was said to have built a temple on top of the tombs. The Temple Mount in Jerusalem, again, same man, same government structure provided both of those sites for us. When we deal with the actual tomb, again, the tombs are not in the church. The tombs are underground, and the tombs are even split by the site called, or the place called Palestine, and the place called Israel. I just told you that the place is even split in its worship. So if the place is split in its worship, guess how much more difficult it would be to actually find what Mr. Devers lied about and what Garfield put on Facebook. It would be virtually impossible unless you excavated it. Excavated not only the temple, but the 5-story cave. That has never happened. What has happened? Again, let's deal with what happened. There was a an investigation of archaeological caves in Israel using that pseudo-array, high-frequency impulse electronic prospecting, not archaeology. This is what Garfield posted. Now I'm going to read from it some things concerning this machine and its negligence and being totally out of place in archaeology.
50 seconds.
A powerful impulse acclimated in a capacitor of a generator is wirelessly transmitted in a short period of time into a geological medium using a capacitor element of an antenna. I can stop right there. An antenna, this is RF technology. Like I said, this is from Nikola Tesla, okay? But for the sake of time, I want to bring you all to it. It's researchgate.net. That's another pseudo site where minimalists go to post craziness. This is where Garfield posted this.
10 seconds.
Okay, and in the next round, we're going to keep reading and reading and reading and reading. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I'm ready when you are, my brother.
All right, we're going right into Garfield's second round. And time will start when you start, Garfield.
Yeah, let me just say a few things here. When you're dealing with if Abraham exists or not, you have to look at Van Ceder's work. You have to look at T.L. Thompson. He is correct about one thing. T.L. Thompson is a minimalist, although he's not probably familiar with his work. But what happened is in the 1940s into the 1970s, everybody, Cyrus Gordon, William Albright, all these guys were going around saying Abraham existed. But once Van Ceder's work and T.L. Thompson work came out in the early 70s, that changed the whole paradigm. That's where it all came out that Abraham did not exist based off those information. Nobody could say it with a definite because you're not back there. You're not there. And Abraham is not the type of figure that you could say stand out in history. But what we can look at is the literature. So you have to study the literature of Genesis and where Abraham is mentioned to get an idea. One of the main problems with studying Abraham is anachronisms. Ur was not a Chaldean city until 1,000 years after Abraham. Genesis 11 verses 28 and 15 verses 7. Abraham pursued enemies to Dan. That name was not used geographically until after the conquest. Judges 18:29. Genesis 36:31, telling of Jacob and Esau lists kings of Edom before they reigned any king over the children of Israel. This must have been written hundreds of years later after Israel had kings. So ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that Moses had something to do with writing the Bible, how is he writing about Edomite kings in the 8th century BC and he's supposed to be around 15th century BC? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the important things about Mike is not talking about the biblical text, but it talks about he's going to be buried in Machpelah or in Hebron, is that they said that he was sold this area. Let me give a shout out to T.L. Thompson, the minimalist. He was sold this area by a Hittite, Ephron. Hittites never existed in any region as a people because they know that by the Indo-European language, that particular language that they wrote in, whatever they wrote in, that script, is particularly fit for the Hittites. It's an Indo-European language, right? So now this text, how did the Hittite, somebody identify themselves as a Hittite during Abraham's time in 2100 BC? How did that happen? Listen, this is how you decipher and just destroy the whole sentiment that Abraham is a real person. All Abraham is to me is just a character, a literary character. And all the job of anybody that believes the Bible, let me just say this openly to everybody. Your job, when you believe in the Bible, the only reason Abraham served is to bring you to God. That's it. That's the only purpose Abraham has. He has no other purpose. There's no other purpose Abraham served just to say, you know what, you need to serve God. That's it. No other purpose. But let me get into some Van Cedar stuff. I mean T.L. Thompson in a minute. Let me just get to T.L. Thompson real quickly so that the people could understand something. When people talk about Genesis 14, the problem of historicity in Genesis 14, the biblical patriots by T.L. Thompson, page 191. The king called Amraphel, the king of Shinar, never existed. The king of Elasar, Ariach, never existed. The king of Elam, Kedar Laomer, never existed. The king of Goim, Tidal, never existed. These people, because we have records of Elam, we got records of the kings in all these different areas, Shinar, wherever Shinar is, and so forth. So all these things in the text are wrong historically and archaeologically, as far as archaeology is also concerned. So if I am correct, our job here today is to prove if Abraham exists or not. That's his job. My job is to show the people that it makes no sense. We need to start looking at Abraham as a character in a book. Like Robin Hood. Robin Hood has some truth to it, but it's like different characters. It's like the guy in Rosewood, the guy that Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames wasn't a real person, but his story is in the Rosewood movie by John Singleton to make it sound better. That's all it is, family. That's all the job of the Bible does with these characters. If you notice, the patriarchs don't exist in real life. There's no proof of Jacob. There's no proof of none of them. There's no proof of Abraham, Isaac, Moses, none of them. And I could debate anybody on these topics. You cannot provide proof. Only conservative scholars who are believers in the book will jump out and say, yeah, man, they existed. But the truth of the matter is, family, they know what Garfield is saying is correct. They know the Hittites never existed until 1600 BCE. Now, my brother mentioned a source. About Josephus and Herod. I'm going to get into that a little bit more, but I want to point out to people this. Jerome, who is a church father from the 4th century BC, 4th century AD, claims the 12 patriarchs are buried in Shechem. The 12 patriarchs were buried not in Arbs, but in Shechem. It's quoted out of Barnes' book on the Church Fathers, page 124, if you need a source in that. But I'm going to get in my next round. I'm going to tell you why Shechem is said in some texts and why Hebron is said in some texts. So if the Bible is contradicting each other, how is it real? How do you know? What are you doing? What methodology are you applying to this to come to a conclusion like, hey, you know what? This is incorrect. This is right. This is true. This is not true. My job is to debate the brother. And see if Abraham exists or the patriarchs or any of them. And the brother has not done anything but he hasn't provided anything about, all he talked about is Devers and Finkelstein.
40 seconds.
Top five archaeologists in the game right now. Devers is a Bible believer. And what did Devers say? Devers say, as far as the patriarchs is concerned, the search is over. He said that, and he's a Bible believer. Finkelstein, he's not a Bible believer, but he still celebrates Hanukkah and Passover and all that different stuff. But we can't say because he's not a direct believer or whatever. I mean, that doesn't decide if he's good or not. Finkelstein has been one of the best archaeologists the last 30, 40 years. But anyway, I'll move on to the next round. Micha'EL Edwards has to provide proof Abraham is a real person. Show us the methodology. Show us where you're getting all your information from. Let's get it.
All right, brother Micha'EL Edwards, this is your last and final round. All right, my brother. Kansu, we still waiting on you. The doors are open, brother. We waiting on you. Who you like up in here? Who you want to take on? I know Kansu will give up a powerful fight. We also have Rob Bourne in the building. Rob Bourne out there. We need Rob Bourne to come up in here. You know, stop running, Rob Bourne. You know you good. Rob Bourne don't like to do this. He ain't running. When I say running, he ain't running from nobody. He just don't like to get in here and do it, you know. But we're going to get him. We're going to get Rob on, man. You know what I'm saying? We got to get Rob on up in here. Brother Michael, it's on you. The time will start, my brother, when you are ready.
All right. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proved right again. He just told another lie, that the Hittites never existed. Well, He wants proof. Give him proof. Yale University Press, SAGGS, the author. The book is History Before Rome and Greece. Okay, you can look this up, Yale University Press. It gives a beautiful timeline in that book having to do with something that pseudo scholars never teach the people about. A principle called proto versus neo. One more time, proto versus neo. In that book, you will find the timeline stating to you that the migration of these people, so-called Hittites, it will give you their migration into Anatolia and then their Neo-Hittite kingdom, suggesting that there is a proto group that migrated into the place called Anatolia, where all of these people began being called Hittites. So there are two kingdoms. Now, what Garfield has to resign in his mind is, what truth are you going to tell? What truth or what lie are you going to tell the people about the Hittites now? That they never migrated into that place? Or the people called the Hittites, by your minimalist scholarship, never existed? Again, Yale University Press. Civilizations before Rome and Greece. You need to update your scholarship, Garfield, because that's terrible. Now, let's go into a bit more of historic things, and I want to show you what's called a historic synchronization and a historical anomaly as relates to minimalist scholarship. In the book of Josephus, and let me remind you that Josephus is a scholar, a world-class historian that has been tried to be debunked by everybody from time immemorial. But the book still exists. Its facts still exist. In the book of Josephus, he talks about a specific historian with respect to Berosus, with respect to Hecataeus, and we want to just say Berosus actually was one of the Greek historians that worked on the Babylonian Kings list and actually used portions of the Enuma Elish. This is a world-recognized scholar. Although by name, Berosus never named Abraham, he wrote passages concerning this man that could never be mistook about anybody else as relates to the biblical account. But we're not focusing on Berosus. We're not even focusing on Hecataeus. I want to focus on Nicholas of Damascus. Ouch, Garfield. Who is Nicholas of Damascus? Nicholas of Damascus was a Greek historian and a philosopher who served not only, they said, Antony and Cleopatra and as their children's instructions, but guess what? Later joined the court of Herod. Who became a confidant of Herod, a representative to Marcus Agrippa in 14 BC, when the Jews complained against the Greek citizens, interceding with Augustus on behalf of Herod in 8 BC. Nicholas exercised a great influence on Herod's internal policies. In the fourth book of his history, Nicholas of Damascus, he deals with the very personality and personage of Abraham, Garfield. Now, what is so much more striking, that this man, Nicholas, was in the court of Herod. Herod is the builder of the temple over the cave of Machpelah. I said, cultural synchronism. One more time, let me give it to the slow people. Nicholas of Damascus writes a book concerning Abraham, but also, and somebody's noise in the background, cut it out. Nicholas of Damascus not only wrote a book called dealing with Abraham and his personage, but Nicholas worked for Herod. Herod built not only the second temple, but he built the temple and synagogue that is called the Cave of Machpelah, or the temple. Now, How do we resign these three, Garfield? You just told another lie that Abraham didn't exist. But world history documents not only Abraham through this Greek historian, Mr. Nicholas of Damascus, and also, let me remind the people that Damascus is only 200 and something kilometers away from the place called Hebron. These are all synchronizations, historical synchronizations that give you a comprehensive look at how important the cave of Machpelah is and how important Abraham is to not only the Israelites, but to the people that appointed King Herod. Now, let's get back to the story. Again, the tomb itself, Garfield said to me, he said, Michael, in 1991, it's on Facebook, everybody, you can go look it up. He said in 1991, Michael, somebody went in that tomb. I asked Garfield, who was the name of the person that went in the tomb? He never answered. That's another lie that he told then, and I'm going to make him tell it today because I'm going to make him tell me the name of the person. And if you can't tell us the name, because I have the name, if you can't tell us the name, that's going to be your fourth lie in this debate. Now, as relates to the actuality of the discovering of Mr. Devers, which is his first answer to me from researchgate.net. Horrible. Horrible. This
15 seconds.
This pseudo-ray, the high impulse machine, the glorified ultrasound machine, only produced 2 or 3 little bitty black and white, grainy, digitized depictions of what they say is underground. But I want to also point this out to you, that Mr. Devers nor Mr. Finkelstein can excavate it because one is a Gentile and the other, any Muslim on the face of the planet will kill you for doing that to the tune that all of these Finkelstein.
All right, time is up, Mike. Time is
up,
my brother. All right. This is the point where you both get to ask each other's questions. Man. Now,
no,
what you can.
I gotta go.
Yeah, my bad. It's your go. It's your. Yeah, it's my bad. It's your last and final round, Garfield. My bad. Time will start when you get it in.
All right. Hold on. What? Give me 5 seconds.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Time will start when you're ready.
Can I talk while he's doing
so, family, after this, make sure y'all get y'all questions. Get y'all questions ready. Hold on. Everybody put your phone on mute, Mike.
Go ahead.
Put your phone on mute and y'all get y'all questions and answers. Get y'all questions ready for both of these brothers, and we're gonna see if we can answer them. All right, Garfield, if you're ready, it's on you.
All right. Yeah. I thought the debate was about if was Abraham a real person, myth, or reality? Now, ladies and gentlemen, my studies are basically way over this guy's head. Now, if you want to play the game that Abraham is talked about, right? All right, let's look at this. Hercules is a Greek hero, right? He's talked about like a real person in Josephus' writings, in Tacitus' writings, right? He's also, Lycurgus is talked about in Tacitus' writings, and other people who are not real are talked about in Josephus' writings. Does that mean that I should believe that Hercules is a real guy? Should I believe Lycurgus is a real guy? That's not, where do you get this type of methodology from? This is the ghetto scholarship that Wesley Muhammad was talking about years ago, man. Step your game up, brother. Now, let's look at Josephus for a second now. We hear about Machpelah from Josephus in the 1st century, but as we noted earlier, he doesn't even mention the Herodian enclosure, let alone the cave below. References to the site and what may be found there are contained in both the Babylonian Jerusalem Talmud, but these texts from the 1st centuries of the Common Era give no description of the cave itself. Now, the issue is, how is it that Josephus documents everything that Herod built except the cave of Magdala, that thing that he built up with no roof. How is it that he was writing about it? Who told you that? Step your scholarship up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Sonata, you got to mute your mic. You got to mute your mic, Sonata. You got to mute your mic. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to this, family. Listen to this carefully. This is where all this started from. That made this such an important spot. Listen to this. It's had nothing to do with the Bible. Nothing at all to do with the Bible. I'm sorry. It has to do with the Bible, with the tradition of the Bible, and the fact that Muslims got involved. You see, once Muslims got involved with their Quran and they also worship Abraham, they wanted to play the bigger boss. I'm the bigger boss. So this is what happened. A guy went down there July 7th, went down to the tombs. Ladies and gentlemen, true story. He went down to the tombs. When he went down there, he found some bones. When he found, his name is Arnold, Arnoul, July 7th, 1119 AD. Unaware of whose bones he had found, he put them in a pile. They turned out to be the bones of Jacob. Arnold next discovered the entrance to still another grotto where the bones of Abraham and Isaac rested. Arnold cleaned the bones, bathing them in wine and water, laid each set on a bier. The next day, several monks went down there. So when they decided to remove the walls opposite the inscriptions. Now, bear in mind, the guy that claimed he found Jacob and Abraham bones and Isaac, he wrote on the inscription that it's Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. He wrote that. There's no inscription down there before that. He wrote that. So now, when the other monks went down there, now they said they found approximately 15 jars filled with bones, which they identified as the bones of Jacob's 12 sons. So now, when the word got out, this reminds me of Prester John so much, man, the BS. So now, when they found the 12 sons, later that year, in October, the monks paraded the relics they found for the benefit of the people of Jerusalem and nearby villages. As they brought the relics out of the crypt, they sang the Te Deum and walked around the cluster in a procession. Oh, how great was the enthusiasm. Our chronicle tells us how many tears were shed in excess of joy. I think they moved all those jars and whatever they found to Switzerland, and there was a fire, so they all got destroyed. Something to that effect. That's how the story goes. But ladies and gentlemen, he never brought this up. He never brought up about what's going on there because, ladies and gentlemen, it's all a story. Have y'all ever heard the story of Haile Selassie and the secret compartment that they have? And come to find out he had a white guy look inside the thing and said that the whole thing about Ethiopia and all this stuff that they had for years, 2,000-3,000 years was fake, was a wooden box from medieval time period they was holding this in. People tell lies all the time, family. This is not new. This is nothing new that's going on. Let me just break up this by just saying one last thing I want to do. I want to do something called a comparative research. And the comparative research is between Aeneas leaves the famous city of Troy and Abraham leaves the city of Mesopotamia, Ur of the Chaldeans. When you look at the both stories, I'm not saying anybody copied from anybody, but Aeneas is delayed in Carthage. Abraham is delayed in Aram, which later becomes Rome's greatest enemy, and Aram becomes Israel's worst enemy. So later on, all this traveling that Aeneas does mirrors pretty much what Abraham does, but to another area. Now, this is the Roman origin story. But the craziest part of all of this, family, is I'm looking at all these connections. I'm not saying anybody copied anybody at all. I'm not using that to say anything. But what I'm saying is, although we might find parallelisms, we must investigate the writings of another famous Greek writer to find the description of a state meant to be a colony, a state that would be divided into 12 tribes and ruled by perfect God-given laws, the ideal state imagined by Plato. And where you got the 12 tribes in Israel from, ladies and gentlemen, whether you want to agree with me or not, they wrote the biblical text that we have today. The last version was under the Greeks. So you're going to find 10 tribes, 12 tribes. If you look through all of Israel, all of Judah, and you find inscriptions, Psalms 20 was found. You see that you don't see anything about no Jacob. You don't see about no Abraham. You don't find no inscriptions. You can find inscriptions even related to the biblical text. But you will never find in the period before the Greeks any writings that mentions Abraham, Jacob, Isaac. You won't find none of that. Why is that, family? Why is that? It's because the people who created the text or assisted were Jews, but they were influenced by living in Alexandria, Egypt, under the Greeks for such a long time. So some of those stories are reflected in them trying to tell their story. So they created this guy named Abraham. And for those who don't know, the promise of Abraham to Isaac, we find it in T.W. Jones from the 1800s, where it talks about the sacrifice, that same story. We find it, the trial of Abraham's faith.
10
we
seconds.
Find that same story, family, in the Hindu culture. We find it in the Greek culture. We find it in Phoenician culture. I'm not saying they copied it, but I'm just trying to tell you that Abraham is just a figure, just like a figure in any other culture that got mythology in it. That's all I'm trying to say. But I'm going to get into Beersheba during the question and answer. We need to talk about Beersheba for a minute, because Beersheba never existed during the time of Abraham, because we have the archaeology to back that. And the archaeology show that nobody lived in Beersheba before 1200 BC. About Beersheba, because Beersheba. So how could he do that if he didn't exist?
All right. Beautiful, beautiful 3 rounds from both of these gentlemen right here. Beautiful 3 rounds. Now we are in the segment of asking each other's questions. You have 2 questions to ask Michael Edwards. Mike have 2 questions to ask you, Garfield. Being that Michael went first, I would like for you to ask Michael Edwards the first question. Garfield, it's on you. You got 2 minutes to answer the question. 2 minutes. And that's long. That's long, but I'm going to give y'all brothers 2 minutes. Go ahead, Garfield. When you finish, Garfield, and when the question is finished being asked, time will start. Go ahead.
All right, cool. Hey, first of all, great dialogue for the people to learn and understand some things where I'm coming from. Let me ask you this, Brother Michael. Why do we find so many anachronisms with the book of Genesis regarding Abraham's time period? If Abraham existed, why is it that the narratives don't match or are not realistic at all when it comes to the narrative part? Why is it the narratives always fail Abraham? So Abraham as an individual, if the narratives is not true, how can we say that he is real?
Time starts.
The narrative as relates to what the Old Testament says is exactly what it says. It says that Abraham purchased this field by a Hittite, which I proved the Hittites purchased it at the exact same place where Herod built this temple over. You're trying to make it really, really trying to put 20 on 10. Now, let me also remind you, at the time of all of these things being documented in the Torah, there was no New Testament. So if you want to speak about anachronism, let's talk about why the New Testament itself is even talking about it when the historical account comes out of the Old Testament and that time period. You don't even understand the nature of your question and how backward it is. But also, we want to point out to the people that not only the Torah relates the same things that the archaeology relate, but this brother just related it for us. He just told us and gave us the wrong name, said Arnon, but his name is Noam Arnon. He's a scholar and historian. Garfield just said he went down there and found bones. But on Facebook, he said nobody went there because there's nothing down there. He also made mention to the pottery. The pottery is a product of the Second Temple period, when the actual temple was built over it and the priests went down there to excavate it. If you need to excavate a 5-story cave, you're going to need some pottery to carry water and other things that Mr. William Deaver didn't carry, nor did Mr. Finkelstein carry, because neither one of them went there. Only Noam Arnon went there and found BONES, hard archaeology. Now, again, the Old Testament's declarance of it points us right to Herod. We just pointed even the historic thing about Herod having this man in his court that wrote books about Abraham, the same man.
All right, Tom.
There is no Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mike.
All right.
Hold on, Garfield.
Let me
Is Michael Edwards' chance to ask you a question now?
Oh, okay. I thought we asked two questions.
Yeah,
right, no
you
problem,
do,
no
but it's Mike's chance to ask you, and then you come
okay.
back.
Go ahead, Mike.
It's on you, Mike.
Okay. Now, this brother said, again, another lie. And y'all seeing the lie counter. I don't know who's got the lie counter, but keep it up. It's at the 5th one. And I love you, brother, but your methodology is horrible. You don't have a methodology. The people saw it. They didn't hear anything. I'm giving all the scholarship here. So here's the question. You said Josephus doesn't talk about the historical account. The historical account doesn't come from the New Testament because the New Testament was not around in the time period. The historical account comes from the Old Testament. Now, with that respect, Josephus doesn't refer to the New Testament. Josephus refers to the story in the scriptures. Josephus refers to the story in the scriptures. So after I go through the book of Josephus, Garfield, from chapter 6, all the way, going all through everything, all this stuff, all the way up to, what is this? Anyway, the whole story about Abraham and the burial and all of that is in this book. How could Josephus be a biblical historian?
I need you to ask a question, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. Garfield knows what the question is. How is it that you said that is not in this book when it's plainly in here on, lots of pages?
Now let's make it clear.
Abraham, bro.
Yeah, let's make it clear. You said make it clear. So go ahead, say it again.
Okay, I'll restate it. Thank you, and that's good too. I need to restate it. How could you make the statement that references to Abraham dying and being buried are not in the book of Josephus? Okay. You just said that.
I can't answer a question because that's a faulty premise. I never said that. So if
what
I never said that,
brother?
Hold on. What I said, if you listen correctly, there's a couple things that you made an error and said that I said. One of the issue with Herod and Josephus doesn't mention the building of Herod, building whatever he built around the so-called Cave of the Patriarchs.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. Okay.
But no, hold on, Mike. Mike, this is your time. This is Garfield time. He's answering it.
You already asked your question, but let me answer this anyway.
Yeah.
The issue here is, family, what I'm trying to say to everybody that's listening, Josephus in his writings, right, says that Necho kidnapped Sarah. I don't know if people know this. He wrote that Necho, the king of Egypt, kidnapped Sarah. I don't know if anybody in the audience know when Necho lived, but how could Necho in the 7th century BC kidnap Abraham's wife Sarah from 2100 BC? So if you still want to use Josephus, I got 50 more of those I could pull out. Leave Josephus alone. He's a historian, but he makes a lot of errors. So be careful using Josephus. Now, what I said about Josephus is very important. A special effort apparently was made by Josephus to specify all the important works of Herod, and the structure at Hebron is not among them. Let me repeat that. A special effort apparently was made by Josephus to specify all the important works of Herod, and the structure at Hebron that Herod built, he never mentions it. Had this structure been a small affair, there would be a reason for its omission. But it was one of the finest in the land, and the probability that it would be mentioned, supposing its builder was Herod, increases with magnificence of the work. The names of the builder is omitted, and the probability of its being omitted increase as the date of its erection recedes from the time of Herod the Great, meaning that it precedes Herod. There's also a theory out there that Herod was the one that actually built it.
Time.
On the supposition that
time.
All right.
We're gonna stick with the rules, man. I gave you a little grace period. Yes.
No problem.
For the Hebrew that said right. No, yeah, it's on you, Garfield. But hold on. For the Hebrew that's in the chat room that said I started late on Garfield's time, if you was paying attention, you will see that I always start the clock after they finish the first sentence. So I already know you're not the sharpest knife in the chat room right now. You know, I know you're not the sharpest knife in the chat room. So, Brother Garfield, It's on you
Yeah.
to ask your question.
Right.
Time will start when you ask the question.
The brother made a statement saying that why would I bring up the New Testament if it's based off what the Old Testament says? So I need to prove a contradiction in the Old Testament then. All right. So let's look at this, family. In Genesis 50 verses 13 teaches that Jacob was buried in the cave of Machpelah before Mamre, which Abraham had bought along with the field for a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. And by the way, I never said Hittites never existed. I said the Hittites didn't exist during the time of Abraham, which is a fact. Which is a fact.
Let's ask you a question, Garfield. Let's ask you a question.
So now, in Genesis,
Mike, you got to put your phone on mute, brother. It can't be chuckling.
Genesis 13, I just read where Abraham bought a field, right? And Jacob was buried there. Now look at Genesis 33 and Joshua 24. Teaches that Jacob bought land from the sons of Hamor in Shechem. And Joshua 24:32 tells us that Joseph was buried at that site in Shechem, which Jacob had bought from the sons of Hamor. Now in Joshua 24:32, it says, as for the bones of Joseph, which the people of Israel brought up from Egypt, they buried them where? At Shechem, in the piece of land that Jacob bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of money. It became an inheritance of the descendants of Joseph. So how could Jacob be in Machpelah, but he's here saying that he bought this spot in Shechem, and they're saying in Genesis 33 and Joshua 24, he's buried in Shechem. So is he buried in Shechem, or is he buried in Machpelah? Just
all
to show
right.
you how mythology.
You understand the question, Mike?
Yeah.
It's on you, brother. Time starts.
The story when Jacob dies, he exclaims to all of these people where he wants to be buried. Not in Shechem, not in Egypt, but he wants to be buried with his fathers, his forefathers. Once again, being true to the text, not true to circular reasoning. And again, as to revisit the last question, because that's the right that you have once you've answered it. See, give easy answers, hit you right back, show the people. In the previous text about Josephus, also the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, which is historical, is the same as that temple built over the grave of Machpelah. It's not in Josephus either, but it's a reality. We're looking at it. And when we go into the temple of Machpelah, we can look at the two types of temple stones, the same large square cut stones that are used on the Temple Mount during the Herodian period. The same builders and the same minds had the buildings built. This is not a carnival. This is not a tourist attraction. This is an actual archaeological site that has actually been admitted by Garfield that went down there and found bones. You choked yourself on your own bone there. You said on Facebook, no existence. You said to these people in the beginning of the debate, no existence. The cave of Machpelah is nothing. But then you say to us, oh, after I exposed about the difference between the cave and the temple and the synchronism between the reality of Abraham and this Damascus Greek philosopher connected to Herod and the writings of Abraham and all of these things coming together like bees on you. Bees. Then. I know this hurt, Garfield, because you're going down bad, baby. No methodology you shown, man. None.
All right. All right. He did actually. He did, right?
No, I get a question back.
Yeah, it's your turn. It's your turn to ask Garfield the last question. Yes, it's your turn to ask Garfield.
Yeah, I only have one question.
Go ahead, brother.
Right, just one. Okay, so my first question, you dropped the ball on. We know. You admit it to us. Second question, here it is, Mr. Garfield. What is it about all of these things? Like today, you just took a head bashing on this stuff. But what is it that you have as a system other than tax preparation that can help our people? Because as relates to history, I disproved you. As relates to archaeology, I disproved you. As relates to your own statements on Facebook, I disproved you. As relates to actual cultural anthropology and bones, I've disproved you. So the question is, what do you have to prove or give to our people other than attacks that are swatted down by scholars like myself? What do you have?
You understand? You understand the question, Garfield?
Scholars like what?
Garfield, do you understand the question? All right, Mike, put your phone on mute. Go ahead, Garfield.
Put your mic on mute, Mike. Let me say this to everybody that's watching. Would you rather believe a lie or would you rather hear the truth? The truth of the matter is Mike is so caught up in his own damn self. He believes that he actually won this debate today. And I've said a lot of things today that people could research. I wish I could show my screen and just show the primaries and everything. But what I'm going to say is this. The solution, family, for us, we all need to return to our roots. There are several things you can do. Returning to your roots, meaning finding out who you are. Elijah Muhammad always said, gain a knowledge of self. Gain a knowledge of who you are. We could argue about people. My brother, true story in the audience, he said we could argue about people 5,000 years ago, and some of us can't even tell us who an African king is or African president is. It's a damn shame. We don't know who we are. We rather identify with Asia than identify with who we are, which is West Africans. The truth of the matter is we need to reorient ourselves with who we are. The second step is we need to understand in 20 years, there will no longer be a Black community. Because of the wealth gap and the wealth value of the Black community in a whole, it's going to be a value of 0 predicted by 2053. But I'm telling you, in 20 years, we won't have any value if we continue to put our money into churches, if we continue to put money into what has failed us. Now, let me be clear. Church, before integration, did a lot once we got off the boat, because that's all most of us knew. So we started the AME church. We started the church in 1773 in South Carolina. We started churches in Virginia. We used to meet and pray and do all type of different stuff. But on the other hand, you had people who came over with their own African spirituality. The 1712 revolt in New York was one of the biggest revolts that changed a lot of rules here. That was the Akan people.
10 seconds.
Right? My people. So now, let me say this. As far as the solution, if we don't stop this wealth gap massacre or this financial tsunami coming, we won't even be on in the debate no more, because the religion has failed us at this point.
All right. Now we are up on the part where we're going to be opening up the phone lines. Family, I hope y'all got some good questions. Remember, be respectful to both of the brothers, and your question will be answered. Okay? So here we go. Did you see the number on the screen? 347. Y'all see the number. 347-670-0017. Call in, ask these brothers a question, and hopefully it'll get answered. All right? This is your turn now. It's on y'all now. And before the show is over, I would like for RBG Hebrew and Garfield representing the Dagger Squad to close us out with a powerful solution. What do you think we need to do? A powerful solution. Let's take the first caller.
Call from
RBG Hebrew and go.
To press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2. To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
All right, so it's playing games with me. Sorry about that, caller. Got to let you go. Call back in, because I did do that. All right, here we go.
Call from
Peace and Black Power family. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Steven driving, man. I'm calling from Baltimore.
All right, what's going on, my brother? What's your question for the two brothers? Sir? I'm good, man. How you?
All right.
All right.
Is the question for either one of them, or y'all
either one,
a certain person?
Either one. Whoever you want to ask a question to.
I had a question for the brother Mike.
Okay.
Since you believe in the Bible and so forth, obviously I'm not really a scholar like some of you brothers, but I just want to know one thing. It says in the Bible that if you ask God for anything, He'll grant it for you. Has that happened for you?
Absolutely, brother. It's happened, and I'll give you an example for it.
Let me rephrase that. I don't mean like a time gap and you made it happen because you was doing stuff. I'm talking about, did you ask for it and you got it right when you asked for it?
Okay. You ready for me to answer, or you want to rephrase it again?
No, sir. You can go ahead.
Okay. So name a specific time that I can prove. I want to tell you to go and look at my criminal record. Okay. This is 2019, right? 2019. Not only was I changed from an all-out criminal, but there's something that I went to prison for back in the day that's not on my record, right? Now, it was a very egregious crime. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can find it if you can find it, but it ain't going to be found that easily. But I prayed when I went to jail. I went to jail for something that people are still in jail that grew up with me. Mm-hmm. But guess what? Guess what happened, bro?
What's that?
I was allowed to walk out in 9 days, fam, without going to court. Now, that had nothing to do with my efforts. Like you said, don't tell me nothing that you made, that, like your kids are successful, but you really worked hard on your kids, so God didn't do it. No. I said I was locked in prison just like the Apostle Paul was. But I prayed and I was released without going to court. And I said, if you have a real good eye and ear for the law, you can go on my record and you may be able to find it. But I'm telling you, I'm freed of it. So that's my proof. Now, you can't tell, hold on. You can't tell me that I didn't pray in that jail cell in Southeast Louisiana and ask Yahuwah before I knew him by name years ago, over 15 years ago, before I knew him by name, but I knew him in spirit. When I got out, my mother didn't help me. The DA didn't help me. The prison system didn't help me. I didn't help me. In fact, I helped myself get in there. The only reason I walked was through the mercy of God. Now, you tell me when you talk to me the next time that you find my criminal record and you find what happened, and damn, Mike, you know what? You right. Mystical was in the same prison.
I don't want to break the rules, Si, but I want to slip something in real quick.
Go ahead.
Now, you going to laugh when I tell you this. I'm from Baltimore City.
Hold on 1 second, brother. Hold on 1 second, please. This is not breaking the rules, and I'm not debating the callers. You had your chance to ask your question, so we need to get to other callers.
Hold on.
We need to get to other callers.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on, Mike. He asked me if he could say something else. So we're going to debate
with this brother?
No, we're not.
We're going to go back and debate.
No, he asked me if he could say something else. So I gave him the go ahead. Go ahead, brother. Say what you're going to say.
Okay. No disrespect to you, Mike. Nobody in there. But it's just funny you said that because I've been in and out of jail myself. I got locked up in Baltimore City. I was sharing probation with Baltimore City and a neighboring county in Annapolis, Maryland, which is a different county. The same thing happened to me, brother. But guess what? I don't really believe in the Bible or Jesus, and I didn't really pray. I just was knowledgeable that they can't get me with the same thing that I already served time in 2 counties. You feel what I'm saying? But I didn't need to pray.
Did you speak for yourself at least one time, or did you have a lawyer?
That's how I got out. That's how they let me out. They tried to send me to another jail, but I told that jail, look, I already served the time for this charge.
Right. So you did something. The point is that you did something to cause that. You asked me, not through any of my own will or deeds, what can I prove that God did? And I just proved it, and I could prove it over and over in my life. If you have the time, but we don't have the time, brother.
All right, thank you.
Out of jail.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate that.
All right.
Let's get some callers up in here. Y'all got to know y'all dealing with the RBG Hebrew, man. He on his game tonight. He on his game.
Yes, sir.
He on his game, y'all. And we got the Dagger Squad up in the building as well. Any callers? Let's go. All right, here we go. Hold on.
Call from
All right, peace and Black Power family. What's your name and where you calling from?
Peace, Arnetta. This is Foundation, from Jamaica, Queens.
My man, Foundation in the building. What's up, brother?
What's going on, brother? I would just like to ask Michael Edwards. I got a question for him.
Go ahead.
When we deal with ancient texts, he deals with I heard him deal with the Septuagint, the Masoretic text, even the New Testament. I would like to ask him, why are all of those Greek manuscripts And also, if we know those are Greek manuscripts, how does that give any people calling themselves Israelites an identity in ancient times? And I'd like Garfield to expand on that too. All right, brother, peace.
Peace.
Hey, brother, good question. I ain't hear the question right. Well, go ahead.
I heard it. He's talking about the Greek manuscripts. All right. He made reference to the Septuagint, which we know the Septuagint is not an original document. Okay. If you understand the underlying history behind the creating of the Septuagint, which me and Shaka almost talked about, me and Professor Walter Williams talked about, the history of the Septuagint is that of an Egyptian people, a Hellenized people. Those people called Jews living in Egypt, right? These people are documented in world history, not simply through the book, but the request and the Ptolemaic dynasty, right? But watch this. The book itself is not an original creation. It is a translation, brother. I don't know if many of you really be thinking when you ask these questions, but I'm going to ask the next caller, really think. The Septuagint is a translation translated by Palestinian scholars and Egyptian scholars at the behest of King Ptolemy, right? This means that there was a pre-existing text. Now, what was the pre-existing text that we can synchronize with the Septuagint to see if it's right or not? We have a whole litany of things called the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Copper Scroll and the Silver Scroll and all these other things that go beyond paperwork. But when you line up the writings of the Septuagint with that which are the
Call from
Morpheus.
(100 places) in more than 1,000 places, the writings of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
All right.
So,
all right.
What? And I'm gonna close it in 10 seconds. Close it in 10 seconds, please. So, what that suggests to you is that the writings that are called the Septuagint, which is again a historical document, and I'm willing to challenge anybody about the Septuagint that brings up the letter of aristocracy, the letter of that pseudepigrapher. I challenge anybody to bring that up. I'll destroy that argument anytime.
All right.
And after that, all that's left is the facts.
Brother Jabari, I seen you trying to call in. Call in on the number on the screen, brother. You ain't gonna be able to call in on my phone. Call in with the number on the screen.
Yo, so let you know something funny. You know what's funny?
Can I respond?
Hold on, Mike. Yeah, what's funny?
I'm just gonna say something just how.
What's funny, brother?
When a person wins a debate, only the winner gets the calls. I've been debating for a long time, and even Garfield knows this from Blog Talk Radio.
All right. Maybe it's because a lot of people want to challenge your information, brother. So, peace and Black Power family. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Wow.
Peace and Black Power, brother. What's up?
Delusional.
Oh man, peace.
Peace. What's happening?
Yeah, this is Morpheus, man. I got a question.
Oh man, Morpheus. Hey, brother, before you ask the question, man, when are you gonna let me get the group, brother? I'm supposed to have a group meeting with y'all brothers.
Yeah. So as we come off the road, man, we're doing some work right now on the road, but we're gonna work that out like within the next week or so.
All right. All right, go ahead. Ask
first
your
of
question.
All, here's my first statement question, real quick, and I'm off. The first statement I want to say is, Garfield, man, I apologize. We apologize for wasting your afternoon. All right, that's the first part. Second part is this, right? Second part is this right here. All right. Now, we know you believe in the Bible. You're a believer. Please, I'm asking this question. If you believe the Bible...
For me or Garfield?
I'm sorry, brother. This is for you, Mike. This is for you, okay. Right?
I knew it. Ask me how I knew.
Listen to me. Listen. I understand you think because we asking you questions. I understand in your mind that you think you won because we're asking you questions. That's not how this works.
Where's the question?
Hold on, Mike. Mike, we gotta relax, Mike. Let him finish. Let him go.
Yeah. Now, okay. I want you to. Can you tell me? Now, Solomon in the Bible has 700 wives and 300 concubines. Correct. Now, if that's so, can you tell me where is the bloodline of Solomon? Out of 700 wives and 300 concubines, is there evidence of the bloodline of Solomon?
That's another simple question. That's a very simple question. And I told y'all, please think about your question before you ask it.
Just give me the bloodline.
Hold on. Listen to what you asked me, fam. A 3-year-old can answer that, brother.
Okay,
no, stop. Listen.
Hold on, Morpheus, stop, Morpheus. Let him answer it.
Morpheus just pushed himself down on his own sword.
Morpheus
says, stop, Morpheus, stop it. Morpheus says that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Never mind the fact that you said that, not me. Never mind the fact that you said that, not me. You said it.
Go on. I said no. You're not going to answer.
Hold on. Time out. Remember what I said.
No, you're not going to play that game with me.
Time out. Everybody, time out. Hold on, Morpheus. Time out, Morpheus. Time out, Morpheus. Time out, Mike. Morpheus, do you feel that he understand your question? Do you feel that he understand your question, or you want to ask it again?
No, he did. He doesn't understand the question.
Ask the question again. Ask the question again.
Listen. Listening is an art, man.
Mike, listen.
Listen, it's an art to listening. Listen.
Go ahead.
Okay, if you don't understand the question, you're talking about somebody falling on a sword. I asked you
to get him off the phone.
Mike, hold on, Mike. You gotta let the brother Mike. You gotta let the brother ask the question without you interrupting. Just let him go.
Make him ask the question.
That's what he's trying to do.
He's wasting the people's time. Ask the question and get off.
Stop, family, relax.
Go ahead, Morpheus. Just ask the question.
I'm asking you, this is 2019. In 2019, I'm asking you for the bloodline of Solomon. Can you show me where the bloodline of Solomon is in 2019? Is there one? Is it not? What? Just a simple question.
Now, again, I'm going to take you down the same road. I want you to sit back or sign to either kick him off the phone and listen to the answer or mute his line. Now, that's what I want. Sit back, hush.
All right, let him answer the question, Morpheus.
Again, I said to the... Come on, man. Get this guy.
Morpheus, let him answer the question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, I said everybody think before you come on this line and ask me an elementary question that could be answered by a 3-year-old. Here is why I say that, Morpheus. If you say to me he got 700 wives and 300 concubines, his lineage would be in the 700 wives and the 300 concubines. But let me show you how that stops.
Morpheus, you got to let him finish, brother. Let him finish.
Elementary super. Hang up the phone.
All right, Morpheus, I got to get you off, man. You ain't letting him go. All right, go ahead. Peace, Morpheus. I got to get you off, man, because I'm trying to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Respectful. So go ahead, answer the question. Answer the question, Mike.
Now, beside his simple question, the silliness in this question, the actual history is right in Ethiopia, fam. Right in Ethiopia. Haile Selassie and all of those people that nobody ever studies, and y'all laugh at the rosters about their history, but none of y'all have actually studied the history of Ethiopia or the dear great brother Haile Selassie. Now, I'm not saying Haile Selassie is a messiah, but I'm saying the lineage is there written in Ethiopian history for this elementary guy that came here and asked me that. Now, I'll recap so the people can understand again, because I speak intelligently. 700 wives and 300 concubines means the lineage of Solomon is in the descendants of the 700 wives and the 300 concubines. That's the simple part of the answer. The intellectual part of the answer is a hard study of the Emperor Haile Selassie's lineage. The Emperor of Ethiopia. The deposed Emperor. No, you're not out of here, man.
Hold on, Garfield. Hold on, Garfield. Hold on, Garfield. I'm going to wait till he finished, then I'll let you go.
I thought you was Morpheus. Go ahead, bro.
All right, go ahead, Garfield.
Yeah, first and foremost, can I respond?
Yes,
hold on, Mike.
yes, go ahead.
Without interrupting, brother?
Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to interrupt you. Go ahead.
All right. First
you lost already. Why would I interrupt you?
First and foremost, this is another dagger that's what's going to murder you right now. First of all, he doesn't know about Haile Selassie and the history. Because in my book, right, that's coming out soon, I'm going to show how the Ethiopians worship other gods and trace their roots to those gods during the AD era. You see, Haile Selassie actually co-opted that kingship. If people know the history, he gave us a king's list that he actually made up. Nobody in history had that king's list before Haile Selassie. And hold on. I'm a dear Mike right now while I'm on the phone. You see,
we don't wait for the book, bro. We don't wait for the book.
Mike, put your phone on mute, please, brother. Put your phone on mute, Mike.
I don't want to make him start cussing.
Mike, put your phone on mute, brother.
I'm not going to curse. The issue here is several things. Damn, yo. What a sore loser, man.
Go ahead, Garfield.
Yo, anyway, Ethiopia's Queen of Sheba and the Ark of the Covenant myth was exposed because they made the guy that wrote Haile Selassie's biography, they made him look in the jar where the Ark of the Covenant is. And he testified that there was nothing in there. So at the end of the day, all of this is myth, and it goes right back to the whole Abraham argument. We're going to have people who believe stuff and add myth to it and add myth to it. There was no bloodline of Solomon talked about in 800 AD in Ethiopia. Ain't nobody talking about that in 800 AD. Ain't nobody talking about it in 400 AD. When what's the guy, Izana, was ruling over that region. Was he talking about Solomon in his writings? This is new. This is something that came about and progressed during the time of the Kebra Gap, which was like 700 years ago. But Mike don't know the Rastafarian history. You see, because we know the King's List, and when you look at the King's List versus what the real King's List is, you see there was a lot of errors that was made by King Selassie because they asked him for a King's List and he had to cook one up. I'm not disrespecting my Rastas. We could debate about it Sunday or Man Cave. The truth of the matter is it's fake.
I'll debate you when you write the book and get some sources.
All right, we're gonna move on, y'all.
When you write your book, and get sources.
All right.
Mike, you don't know.
Garfield, so I never trying to talk, brother.
All right, time. Let's get these callers up, y'all. Let's get the callers up. All right, hold on.
Call from
Garfield, Pat.
Peace and Black Power family. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Lane, I'm calling from Chicago.
Chicago. What's your name?
Lane.
Sanet?
Lane, L-A-N-A-E.
Okay. All right. What's up, Queen? What you calling for? What's your question?
I was calling to kind of like piggyback off of the guy who just got off the phone.
Okay.
I can't hear what she's saying, sir. I can't hear what she's saying.
All right, come on.
I was piggybacking off of the guy who just got off the phone, Morpheus or something.
Yes.
But it's for but both of you guys, I would like for Garfield and Mike to elaborate if you both can. So my question is, if we're still fighting about whether the Bible is true, thousands of years later, how can we prove what bloodline is which?
Do y'all both understand the question?
No, I
say it again, sister. They don't understand. They don't understand.
Let's be silent.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm saying if we're all arguing about whether the Bible is true or not, thousands of years later, how could we identify or prove which bloodline we are according to the Bible? Because it seems like we don't have any of this in order.
Okay. Do y'all understand the question?
Yes, absolutely.
How can y'all prove what bloodline that we are from according to the Bible? How can you prove the bloodline? You understand, Garfield?
The Bible. Yeah, I understand it.
Garfield, do you understand, brother?
I'm good. I'm disciplined today, bro.
All right, go ahead, Mike. Mike, answer the question, brother.
Garfield's going to agree with me. Why? She's going to have to agree with me.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Peace to the dear sister. Peace to the sister and her question. Here's your answer. The leading apostle of the New Testament gives this declaration in the New Testament. Listen close, dear sister. Give no heed to endless genealogies which only gender strife. I'm going to say it one more time. The leading apostle of the New Testament, which is
Call from.
The apostle says, somebody's background, come on.
Put your phone on mute as you come in the room. Put it on mute till you get in. Go ahead.
The leading apostle says, unequivocally, give no heed to endless genealogies that only gender strife and more questions. Why is that? Because of the same parallel in your African genetics today. You don't know whom specifically your ancestors are to any greater degree other than maybe 0.9 or 0.13. Okay? When you do your genealogy, you will almost be tied to every nationality and every culture on the planet. Why? Because of history. And why will you always be dominant? Because of your genetics. The same reason why Paul is saying to you, it's no use in doing that because you're going to keep looking and looking and looking. And anybody that's ever done a scientific family tree, your genealogy, you know how exponential finding your genealogy is. It's almost virtually impossible through the plan of Satan and slavery. Okay? So the Bible don't tell you to do that. The Bible never tells you to find out who you are today. The Bible told the ancient Israelites to know who they were, but the Bible even declares that the ancient Israelites were turned away from by the God. So it's not ever about genealogy. It's about your faith. And that's something that none of these brothers ever bring up.
Right.
Because they're
now,
stuck
Mike,
in the miniature things. Hold on, bro. Just 15 seconds. Something that none of these brothers ever bring up because they're stuck on the milk of scholarship concerning the Bible. But the meat of it has to do with your spirit, sister, and your walk and your life as a mother and a woman and a goddess in this earth. And you being resurrected, not continually asking questions that gender nothing.
Okay. Okay, now Garfield.
So you saying?
Hold on, sister. Let Garfield. Let Garfield go.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, hold on. Let Garfield.
Let the sister follow up, man.
Yeah, Garfield.
Let me say this before the sister responds.
Yes.
No, man, let the sister follow up, man. Let the sister follow up.
Mike, when you do that, Mike, you create confusion. You don't need to do all of that. You gotta let the host. You got to let me run the show. Mike, you got to let me run the show, brother. When you do that, you confuse everything. So just relax. Let me run the show. I want Garfield to respond, and then I'm going to let the sister come back in. So she got to hear from both of y'all. Yes. Go ahead, Garfield.
Okay.
Damn, man. Damn. All right. Damn, Garfield's a disciplined one today. What's going on in the world, huh?
Go ahead.
You have much to say.
Oh man. Anyway, let me say this to the sister. First and foremost, we're not a part of any tribes. The tribal part of it is just a part of the national mythos that was invented. Nobody's a part of any tribe. All that is mythos and people trying to make the mythos reality. This is why the Christians will always beat up the Hebrew Israelites who are one West. Because if you're holding on to something that's not there, you're never going to reach anywhere. And to all these people right now, even on the phone right now, sister, I'm going to tell you right now, the best religion you could follow. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. That's it. Live your life. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. That's the best religion on the planet. That's it.
That's right.
You don't need nothing.
Okay. All right.
No name calling, nothing.
Now for both of y'all, the sister Claire, she just simply wanted to know, how do we determine our bloodline? According to the Bible, how do we find out who we are? This is what she want to know. You see?
I'm saying it's a
now hold on, Garfield. Garfield, hold on. You already answered too. So, sister, you can never find out who you are according to the Bible using the Bible. You got to go outside of the Bible. You got to get DNA testing. You got to test this stuff, because by reading passages does not tell you who you are. You can't tell I'm a Hebrew. You can't tell I'm an African by reading the Bible or by looking at me. You got to go outside of that. So you got to go out and get DNA testing. So now, my sister, go ahead. I'm going to let you follow up. You got the floor, sis.
Well, that was kind of my purpose of really asking. I don't really agree with the whole going by faith thing. I just feel like a lot of times it's really telling us to just go off faith and believe it versus doing our own research and following common sense. I just feel like we've been arguing for the same thing for years and years now, and it's never ending. It's never a winner. So it's always going to be a debate, which to me leads to the fact that it's not true. That's what it seems like. I've been listening to Sonetta for a long time. I've listened to Jabari. I've listened to Polite. I've listened to pretty much everybody. But it seemed like when it comes to the sources of the Christians, it's just, you have the Bible, you have some sources, but it's really belief that you guys go off of over everything. And
hey, I see that. I see you're listening.
Like you guys try to debunk.
I see you're listening to Sarnetta is paying off. You learning. That's good. That's good, sister.
I mean, I've been listening for years. It's not terrible.
It's horrible.
Okay, thank you.
Because if you really think about it, every time somebody debates a Hebrew Israelite, everybody goes straight to the Bible, but nothing else, while other people are bringing 20, 30 sources.
Huh.
Let me tell you
really
Nah, you don't need to tell her why it's happening, Mike. Right now, thank you, my sister.
Man, come on, brother.
No, brother, because you're not debating her. Hold on, Mike. Hold on, brother. Hold on, Mike.
Please just let me speak for a minute.
I don't believe you, man. I just broke the rules down to you, brother. I just broke the rules before we started.
Only me,
because I don't need you to explain to her. She's not in the ring. She's getting ready to hang up.
Go ahead, bro.
She's getting ready to hang up, brother. Thank you, Queen. I appreciate you. Now, my sister, brother Jabari is on the line. Peace and black power to you, Jabari. Do you have a question, brother?
I do have a question. I actually heard, let me say peace to both of the brothers, by the way. They've had a spirited debate.
Right. Good debate with both of them. I'm keeping both of them on point right now.
Yeah. So I want to say peace to both of them, both of my brothers. This question is for Michael Edwards. I hear him using very similar logic to the logic that he used in our conversation. And I want to ask him a particular question about his methodology for trying to prove Abraham or all of the other patriarchs. He tends to try to prove that the people mentioned in the story existed. So if the people existed, then that particular individual must have existed. And to me, I told him that I call that Spider-Man logic, because simply because you can prove Queens, New York existed or even Gotham existed, that doesn't mean that Spider-Man or Batman existed. So I want to see how he can further explain why he continues to use what, in my opinion, is that very faulty logic. I'll hang up and listen.
All right, thank you.
Okay, beautiful question.
Beautiful question, and I'll answer it. Beautiful question. I'll answer it in a tiered fashion.
Go ahead, Mike.
Again, the winner gets to do that. So I want y'all to know that all of these people, look at what's happening. All of these people are doing the reason why I exist, and people like me that have the Holy Spirit and a hell of a lot of knowledge. Because it's not that we come to y'all and say, you're going to believe Abraham lived. No. Garfield comes with pseudos, and I have to stomp it out in front of thousands of people. So we're not ever, well, I want to say with the exception of the ISUPK, we don't do that. RBG Hebrews, I don't make you believe what I believe. If you have a question about what I believe, I debunk it flatly out of hand like I've done all this time, even with Jabari, debunk it to the point where other people have to try to debunk me, and it never happens. Now, here's the question Jabari asked me. When I just gave just now, and obviously you have not heard or you didn't listen to the entire debate, But the brother's talking about, why do I think that there's people, specific people, when I prove a whole community? Jabari, if you went to college, you know what synchronism is. If you went to school and studied anything in history, you should know what cultural synchronisms are. Archaeologists do it, anthropologists do it, historians do it. Everybody that is intellectual has to do it because of the nature of history. But when I give you the proof of a historian, and Garfield doesn't even take the time in the debate to try to debunk a book written by this man from Damascus about the life of Abraham. This man works for Herod the king. This man is written into world history. This is not Spider-Man, dude. This is not Superman, dude. This is called world history. We're not talking about Geb. See, if we're talking about fake people, then we'd be bringing up Geb and Osiris and all of these other craziness that y'all try to make into real science, real philosophy. No, what I present in this debate and in your debate was hard history, not for me trying to make you believe anything, but as an answer to your deficits. You don't believe it. So I do what the Bible says, and I prove all things. Amen. Amen. You got another one?
Mike is.
I am still here. Can I just say that?
Hold on, Garfield. Garfield, hold on.
Let Jabari go, because he's thirsty. Let Jabari go.
Go ahead, Jabari. You want to say something else?
Let me just say I've asked this question a few times. He never answers the question. Let me start by saying that Geb and Asar, not Osiris, all of those people were not historical characters. So I think he thinks it's a shot to say.
We know that, bro. That's what I just said. They're cartoons.
So
they're cartoons.
Wait a minute. I'll listen to you. Wait a minute. Have some patience. So, that's not a shot. I mean, and I hope that he realizes that not answering the question doesn't help, because I think everyone understands that. Simply arguing that a people existed doesn't mean a particular person existed. And the stories that we're describing they're articulated, they're comprehensive. They describe a number of acts of a particular person. So simply saying that a group existed does not allow us to make the case at all that a particular person existed. Most mythological stories, most fictional stories are situated amongst people that actually exist. Most stories that you've read are like that. So I'm not exactly sure why he thinks that works.
I'll help you. I don't want you to run yet.
The Hittites exist, so that proves. Or that Chaldea existed, so that proves something. Or the Aramaic. He does this a lot. I'm not sure why he thinks.
Okay, I'll show you why, brother. Really quickly.
All right, we're gonna let Michael go. We're gonna let Michael go, and then Brother Garfield, you come back in. Thanks a lot, Brother Jabari. I appreciate it.
Okay. Peace.
All right, peace, man.
And peace to you, Brother Jabari. Peace to you, man. And that was a great questions, but they give me opportunity to point out the solid argument that I make. Okay. I want to give Jabari some homework. The next time we talk, just like the brother that asked me the first question, I want you to bring this back to me. And I want Garfield to even take a stab at it now. And Sonetta and anybody that got all of this, thinking I'm pushing the Bible, I'm answering, baby. Here's proof. I want you to take this. I read it before, but I'm going to read it in its completion. It won't take long, Sonetta. Nicholas of Damascus, in the 4th book of his history, says this: Abram reigned at Damascus, being a foreigner, who came with an army out of the land of Babylon, called the land of the Chaldeans. There's that crazy anachronism that Garfield pointed out. But again, the book of Josephus is fixed up by redactors, just like the Bible. So these things are not really anachronism. They're just how it happens when cultures move along and progress and names change. But after a long time, it says, he got up and removed from that country, just like the Bible says, also with his people, and went into the land then called the land of Canaan, but now the land of Judea. And this, when his posterity were become a multitude, as to which posterity of his, we relate their history in another work. Another one. Now the name of Abraham is even still famous in the country of Damascus, one of the oldest countries, recorded oldest countries with the oldest history in the world, man. Here it is. And there is shown a village named for him, the habitation of Abraham. This same doggone place is what we've been talking about, around Hebron. And this is a historian. You can't tell me that you disagree with this.
Hey, Mike.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. I'm not finished.
Garfield, hold on, Garfield. Mike, we're not going to do this again like you did last time, brother. We ain't going to, you can't control the conversation because we're getting ready to end this show right now at 2 hours. That's it.
Yes, we are. That's
all
right.
right, so go ahead,
That's
Mike.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, again, this is a historian that's been around untouched, and none of y'all have ever brought it out. That's what's crazy. You sit here and go all the way to Israel to get a Gentile Finkelstein, and you won't even defend him in a debate. But you ain't never brought up Nicholas of Damascus and these books he wrote on Abraham and the bones you told us you found. And the man, this is crazy. You understand? When you get scholarship that demolishes what Garfield does and other people, then y'all ought to concede from these type of arguments and never have them no more.
All right, brother.
That's the end of my statement.
All right, Mike, you're the one that challenged the argument, brother. So when you say you don't have it no more, you don't want, you challenge Garfield. What are you talking about? But anyway, go ahead, Garfield. It's on you.
Let me respond.
Respond, Garfield, but he said we got the end.
Yeah. Now, Nicholas of Damascus says that Abraham, he mentions and speaks about.
No, he didn't say. He wrote a book.
No, Mike, please,
Mike,
brother.
Can you
please,
brother. Up, bro?
He can't miss.
Please, Mike, come on. We're having a good show, brothers. Don't end it like that. Mike, relax. Let the brother finish, Mike. Mike, you got to let him finish now. Come on, brother.
These are books that the people can go and get. These are books that the people can get.
Now listen to me. Tacitus wrote years ago, right? He said, mankind in the earliest age lived for a time without a single vicious impulse, without shame or guilt, and consequently without punishment and restraints. I'm going to skip a paragraph and I'm going to come to this. These were at first simple, while men's minds were unsophisticated. The most famous of them were those of the Cretans, framed by Minos, those of the Spartans by Lycurgus, and subsequently those which Solon drew up for the Athenians on a more elaborate and extensive scale. Now, Tacitus seems very convincing for everyone. Using Tacitus is sure that, hey, you know what? When we talk about Jesus, because he mentions Jesus, that makes Jesus real. So because Damascus mentions Abraham, we're going to think that he's a living human being logic. But check this out. That Tacitus also didn't question the reality of Minos, the son of Zeus and Europa. He also doesn't question the reality of Lycurgus, whom plenty of ancient historians doubt existed historically. He believed those two to be great lawgivers. He presents them like he presents anybody else, like Jesus, as actual historical figures. The question of whether the figure is real or not is unimportant to Tacitus. That isn't what he's trying to prove. So I'm saying to you, when the brother writes, or whoever it is in Damascus writes about Abraham, it doesn't say that he actually exists. That's why I gave you the example of Josephus writing that Nico kidnapped Sarah. Is that a real story? That's in Josephus writing.
All right, Garfield.
So you can't. You see, the methodology is your problem, bro. You got to grow up.
That's enough, Garfield.
Mike, relax, Mike. You got to stop, brother. Come on, Mike. Mike, if you winning, you ain't got to do all of this, man. Relax, everybody, relax. When you winning, Mike, you don't do all of that.
I'm just enjoying myself, bro.
But hold on, brother. Hold on. I don't have the patience for all of that stuff, man. But when you winning, you don't need all the theatrics and all of that because it takes away. Hold on, brother. Listen. It takes away from what you're doing.
That's what you did before.
I'm not talking about anything. Right now, you got 2 minutes. All right, brother. Listen. Right. You got 2 minutes to close out. Go ahead, brother. Your time starts.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
God bless you, my brother. And
yes, sir.
I genuinely mean that when I say that. God
Same to you, brother. Go ahead, brother. You got 2 minutes.
My God bless you. And I love you, Sonetta. And I love Garfield. And I mean, this is 2-0. Really 3-0 because everybody forgot me and Garfield.
Your time is starting, Mike. You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I know, bro. I know. You don't have to say that. I know. Everybody forgot me and Jabari debated. I was the first to defeat Jabari. Zion Lex wasn't the first. This is Jabari's third defeat, and Garfield just took one bad today by showing no methodology. And so, again, to the people, I challenge the people, just like I said in the last debate, debunk me. That's what I'm saying. I'm calling all of these chemist scholars out to the Valley of Decision for a very specific reason, to show the people, if you can't debunk the RBG Hebrew, hush. Don't disrespect our culture. Don't disrespect science and technology and history. Don't disrespect it because you don't like it. Go show us what you do like. Show us what you do that's good for the community. Because our Bible has created millions of black men resurrected, walking around with families and children, and a new way to show the world what a black God is, the image of God. You heard me? We have something, and we're going to keep that, and we're going to keep on proving it, just like the Bible says. So, again, debunk me. And if you can't, don't even put no comments in the comment section. If you don't bring any scholarship, you don't get no kind of respect in a scholarly environment. Now, all of y'all, make sure you listen again and subscribe to RBG Hebrew on YouTube. And I love you. Shalom.
All right. Peace and Black Power. Thank you, Brother Mike. Brother Garfield, yes, I'm restarting the clock. You got 2 minutes to close out. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Hey, let me just say something clearly, by the way, that the reason why I brought up the monk and the caves and he finds the bones to show you how ridiculous Muslims are in trying to spread this whole Abraham crap. But the truth of the matter is several people went down in the caves and there's documentation of it. I could have gone through that. I didn't want to go that route. The fact of the matter is Save Jevin, he went down there and also saw shards of pottery and wine jugs. We also have... I forgot the guy's name, Moshe Dayan. He sent out a 12-year-old girl who went down there and collected coins and saw what actually was down there. But most of these people that go down there say there's nothing down there. They don't see anything. Some people said they saw this. Some people said they saw jars and they took the jars to Europe. You know, it's a lot of crazy stories, man. Just like the whole Haile Selassie and the Ark of the Covenant, people believe that. Just like our Jamaicans in Alderstown believe Bedouin flew off the building and could fly. People believe traditions up to this day, and it's over 100 years ago. So I'm just saying to everybody out there, believe what you want to believe, right? But you don't need to spread the craziness that you're believing. We could brag about what Christianity did for us here in America because 90% of Black Americans are Christians, are affiliated to a church. But when you look at the wealth gap between the Black community and the white community, I don't see anybody in the church teaching the wealth gap. I don't see any Hebrew Israelite teaching about the wealth gap. We are almost to be extinct by a financial tsunami that's coming our way. They are trying to replace Black people with everybody else. They are not paying attention. Since we came off the ship and we were free in any part in the Americas, whether it's Jamaica or here, they did not know what to do with the ex-slave. And America never did not know what to do. So they always try to find some way how to get out of it. Whether it's reparation, they don't want to do it. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to say this. You have a solution here. One of the solutions you have, family, is to get yourself financial literate. Learn about stocks. Get your credit clean, whether Garfield do it or not. Learn how to pool your resources together. How you can raise $150,000 amongst yourselves as Hebrew Israelites. You want to do something? Teach the people financial responsibility and give them some financial literacy. Because at this point, we could argue all day long. I could do this all day long. But the bottom line is, family, if you can't afford to have 6 months worth of rent or 6 months mortgage, you're literally broke in America. And that's what you need to worry about because the God that you've been praying to will work it out for you.
All right. Thank you to Michael Edwards. And thank you, my brother Garfield. Both of y'all brothers did great, great. You're getting better and better. You're getting better and better. Thank y'all, brothers. I appreciate y'all. All right.
Call from.
Right.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
All right.
To accept, press 1.
All right. Peace and black power, brother Polite. The debate is over, but I'm letting you call in to give your
love you, bro.
to give a recap. Give us a recap, brother Polite, and I got my brother Real G's on the line. What's up, Polite?
You want me to give a recap?
Yeah. Have you watched anything? Because the debate is over, but you can give an overview of what you saw, of what you heard.
I quit the last hour. I wanted to ask Garfield a question.
Oh yeah, they gone. They gone, brother. They left.
Oh, they gone?
Yeah.
Damn, man. Yeah, Mike be wildin', bro. No, Mike is funny, man. He be wilding at the same time.
All right.
Damn.
All right. So hold on. Hey, House of Conscience, brother Tahuti, Real G's. What's up, brother?
Hey, I got one question. My question is to the chat room, because earlier you said you was gonna let the people make the decision on who won the
Yeah, they still can make the decision. They make their decisions.
You can ask them.
No, they make their decisions in the chat as it go on. So, you know, I ain't got to stop.
Okay, but can you put something out there like can you put something out there like press 1 for Mike or 1 for Garfield or 2 for Mike?
Nah, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it in their comments. I know what you're saying, which is good too. But I want them to rate it like
who the overall winner was.
But hold on, they're gonna rate it on their comment section as they viewing it. Garfield 3-0, Mike 3-0, Mike 2-1, like that. They're gonna do that.
Okay, because I haven't seen it yet. I'm just trying to see. I don't see
Yeah.
it. But all right, peace, family.
All right, peace, my brother.
We out.
Peace. All right, peace, brother. Polite. I gotta go. I gotta run, brother. Peace.
All right, my brother.
All right, peace, man. Family, beautiful, beautiful, powerful debate. All right. I tried my best to keep it respectful. And I want to just say this right quick. I like 2 of the questions. Brother Morpheus called in, and he had a powerful question about Solomon and all of the wild. I think that was a great question. And then we had a caller call in and say, you know, about have God ever answered your prayers? And my brother, the RBG Hebrew, went on to say that he was in prison and got locked up, and he was praying and you know, paraphrasing that, he prayed to the Most High, he answered his questions, and the Most High opened up the gates for him, and he came out. I would have simply said, bruh, on the response to that is that our ancestors been praying for 500 years, right? With the noose around their neck, praying to the Most High, praying to God, right? For 500 years. Please don't let this white man castrate me. Please don't let this white man burn me. Please don't let this white man cut my ears off. And the Most High never answered their prayers. That's how you respond to a question like that. All right? But I didn't want to do it because I'm not in a debate. But I'm going to just say peace and black power. Thank y'all for listening. And we out of here.
Yeah. Pharaoh. Sign at the TV, Black News 102. Whose words will survive when we purge the lies? That curse the divine, cast the pearls to swine. Reverse the design, even merge divide. Side at a TV when 2 worlds collide. Might hurt to decide just who verbs will vibe. When we curve all the jive, whether girls or guys. No herbs left alive in this earthly skies. Side at a TV when 2 worlds collide. Clash of the titans, facts will enlighten. Some spitting mad, but they ain't half as exciting. This platform we battle for the souls of man. Those kidnapped and trapped upon stolen land. Doesn't matter where you at on this earth. Africa's the true origin of your birth. Teaching you true health and wealth, knowledge of self-worth instead of killing your health, going to jail over turf. We all truth seekers asking questions. Should we seek them in the shrine lodge or the lessons? Is the answer ancestral science or religion? Is it freedom or Willie Lynch a little different? Is it Indian, aboriginal, indigenous people. Should we worship money? Is it still a root of all evil? We all born with mental shackles if we black. And the only thing that's gonna free us is the actual facts. Whose words will survive when we purge the lies? That curse the divine, cast the pearls to swine. Reverse the design, even merge divide. Side net a TV when two worlds collide. Might hurt to decide just who verbs will vibe. When we curve all the
to the game that was giving you treasure. Sonetta University is giving you treasure.